All right. Welcome, everyone, to Lead Generation Week. My name is Michael Furry. Thanks for joining us again for another great session today. We've got the founder and CEO of DoLead, Arthur Saint-Pere. Pere?
Pere.
Pere. Perfect.
Hard to pronounce, I know.
Thank you for joining us today, and we're looking forward to your presentation. Arthur, if you don't mind, just go ahead and take it from here and tell us a little bit about yourself and dive right into the session.
All righty. Well, thank you very much for having me today. Um, Very excited to do that presentation. Can you please confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. Yeah, so thank you very much, Michael. Very happy to be here on stage, on that virtual stage today for Lead Generation Word. Today we're going to cover making the best of a bad situation, lead generation in a pandemic, and see what we can learn from the data we gathered over the past few weeks, few months, and how to take it from here to get the best out of your lead generation effort. I'd like to start with a question and start with some kind of a very interesting fact I found online. Do you know who actually first spotted the COVID-19 outbreak? Do you have any idea? Actually, it's not the World Health Organization who did. It's an AI built by a company named Blue Dot, and they were able to spot the virus almost 2 weeks before the World Health Organization notified the public of the flu-like outbreak in China, which is great. And how they did that, they built an algorithm, an AI-driven algorithm to score foreign language news reports, animal and plant disease networks, and official proclamations to basically send that advance warning to its clients. So I found that fact very interesting because, as you know, AI is slowly disrupting the online lead generation market, and that's another close example to see how this can impact our industry. So before presenting myself, I'd like to tell you that I've been compulsively refreshing my news feeds for the past 3 months. I'm sure you did too, to trying to understand what was happening globally, monitoring the speed and the spread of the virus in Europe, in the US, in China, everywhere on the planet. These charts come from the Financial Times. I'm pretty sure you are familiar to these, and they basically tell us a lot about where the virus is today, how many confirmed new cases, the death toll, these horrible numbers we see on a daily basis, especially here in the US. And as I was doing my research, trying to understand what I could do as as a professional in the lead generation industry, but also as someone living here in Boston, in the US, I came across that great article called "The Hammer and the Dance" by Thomas Pueyo. Maybe you've heard about that guy. He wrote a great article. It's a very long article, very detailed, with a lot of charts and graphs. And basically, he described the fact that there is once there is an outbreak like this one, there are two different steps that one should take, and government states should take. One is the hammer phase, trying to slow down the curve and the virus, and using social distancing measures, slowing down the public from going to work or moving around. And after, what he says is a 3 to 7 weeks period of time, but maybe a little more, especially here in the US, as the US is so big, there is the dance phase. And the dance phase is where the public and governments and states have to keep monitoring the R ratio, which is the ratio that monitors the number of people you could infect if you get infected. And we need to keep that ratio below 1, meaning that if I get infected, I will not infect more than one other person. And that's the dance phase, and that's where governments and states have to take some extra measures to control the disease and to control the spread of the virus. So what to expect next. Probably the end of the hammer phase, and then start with the dense phase. So I got back to the Financial Times, graphs, and here you see all the different countries on the same graph. It's a pretty ugly graph, very hard to read. So I make it a bit simpler for you guys. And as you can see here, it is a logarithmic scale, not a linear scale. So you could be a little confused about these graphs, but these curves. But basically what we learn here is that the US is pretty stable, has been pretty stable for the past few weeks, few months. UK is slowly starting to go down. Italy is doing great in Europe. But what is even more interesting is basically the case of China. And from the data we have here, we see that they've already been through 2 different episodes of the dense phase. And this is the Bloomberg information from last week. They had to renew their lockdown order for another period of time for one of the region in China, the Northeast region, putting over 100 million Chinese under lockdown again, which is basically what everybody fears globally, especially here in the US. It's what we call the so-called second wave. So what does it mean for the lead generation industry? That's the topic I'm gonna cover today. Before doing this, a quick introduction. So my name is Saint-Pere, Arthur Saint-Pere. As you can hear from my accent, I'm French. I come from Paris. I'm based in Boston. I've been living here for the past, almost the past 3 years. And I'm the founder and CEO of DoLead. But I'm also an affiliate professor of entrepreneurship and digital innovation at HEC Paris. And here's my email if you have any questions, author@dolead.com. If you want to learn more about lead generation in general and lead generation and the pandemic, you can go on my Medium account, and there is plenty of great articles here that you can learn from. So here's what I will cover today. I already did the COVID-19 pandemic introduction. I'd like to start with a friendly reminder on what are the main lead generation funnel KPIs, key metrics. Then move to the bump effect for display networks, both social networks and news sites networks. Then going down the lead generation funnel, taking a closer look at the demand data, the search clickstream, the intent data, the landing pages, conversion rates, and the sales data. And because I'm going to cover many different industries here and many different countries too, it's very hard to give a precise general overview here. So I decided to share with you 2 great tips we've been implementing with our clients here in the US: dynamic geo-targeting, trying to adjust to the pandemic in the US, and how you could basically revamp your marketing and sales process to get better results when it comes to sales. And we'll do the wrap up with a nice COVID-19 checklist for you guys to get back home and continue thinking about that. First, where does our data come? You will see I'm going to share plenty of charts and data with you today. The data come from first our own internal data set. We run over 6,000 live campaigns as of today for over 200 advertisers on 6 different countries. Canada, US, UK, France, Spain, Italy, and we also have a few clients in some other places like Mexico, Germany, Portugal, that kind of countries. I also leverage a few Google and Bing ads insights and some other partners data like Facebook ads, Taboola ads, and Outbrain. We have strong corporate values here at DoLead, and one of them is data wins arguments. So I hope that you will enjoy that presentation and find it very clear, as crystal clear as possible, and that you will learn a couple of great insights. So let's do this. Okay, so let's start with a gentle reminder, the lead generation funnel KPIs. As a user goes down to toward the lead generation funnel, there is a couple of steps he has to go through. The first is when a user view an ad or link online and eventually click on it. That's the demand data, the data that one can monitor to understand how many clicks are generated and how many, what is actually the reach of the campaigns. Then moving forward, you look at the data coming from your website, from your landing pages, and you see the conversion rates, the number of raw conversions you get from the clicks, and the MQL, which is the marketing qualified leads. And the difference between a raw conversion and a marketing qualified lead is basically, you know, the scrub rate, the fake leads, the leads with a, you know, fake email address, fake phone number, or fake comment, basically. So MQL are really the leads that get into your, that are, you know, passed along to your sales team, and that your sales team can really work with. And then there is the sales data. And the first KPI you want to monitor is the contact rate, the number of marketing qualified leads you can actually reach out to and you know, get on the phone. And then the SQR rate, the number of contacted leads that are truly a business opportunity for your company, sales qualified leads, and then the gross sales, the net sales, basically the sales rate. So many different metrics here you want to monitor, but it's very important to keep this in mind when trying to understand what's happening right now and what potentially will happen in the upcoming weeks when it comes to lead generation. So to simplify this a little bit, I decided to split my presentation into three parts. You know, the demand data, the click volumes, basically, the intent data, the conversions, and the conversion rates, and then the sales data. Let's start with the bump effect for display network, because that's something really interesting which happened over the past few weeks. As you know, everybody has been you know, browsing online, connecting to their social networks accounts, reading stuff on COVID-19. And actually, Zuckerberg said in late April that they've seen a spike in logged users onto their, you know, different services. More than 3 billion users logged on Facebook, Instagram, you know, WhatsApp in April. That's an increase by 15%, so that's huge. And 3 billion users, it's almost half of the entire, you know, global population, so that's massive. And they've seen a spike in numbers of calls, people using, you know, especially Messenger and WhatsApp, but so video calling, the video calling usage has just doubled in April. And also videos views, people spend a lot of time watching videos online, especially on the Facebook networks. So obviously for, you know, for obvious reasons, when people are using more their favorite social networks, the ad display inventory is growing. That's very easy to understand, right? So right now, ad display inventory is at a never before seen heights because of that lockdown period and lockdown situation. That was for social networks. What about the rest of the websites? I took a closer look to, you know, news sites, and I share with you two slides, two graphs here, proving that one, the average number of you know, the average traffic on websites, web news sites, and the time spent on these sites has just, you know, spiked over the past few weeks. But most of that incremental traffic comes from COVID-19 related articles. And now, as Tabula Newsroom shared, that boom in traffic is slowly getting back to normal, and it will for sure, unless there is a second wave in the upcoming weeks or months. Meaning again that the ad display inventory has been growing. Has been growing over the past few weeks. So this is just for the reach number of potential views of your ads and of your, you know, organic links that you can put online. But what about user intent beyond that traffic bump effect? How does that increase in reach translated into, you know, user intent and clicks and conversion on your website? So to measure this, I decided to go through a deep analysis on the click stream with leveraging data coming from Google and Bing ads, because I think that's the best way to understand what users are trying to search for online and what are their needs. And of course, there are many different lead generation industries that we could have covered today. So I decided to go for 8 of them, and that's a lot. Home improvement, B2B, education, energy, telecom, insurance, personal finance, and medical care. That's a lot. So I'm going to share one example with you and then a recap. And I have an appendix with the rest of the analysis. I'm very happy to share the whole presentation with you guys after the session. So that's one example for home improvements. As you can see here, we have 2 charts on the left for the US, and then 2 other examples, UK and Italy, because I thought these were really interesting. So what we first see, the kind of general big picture here, is that there is a clear dip in search click volume across the board. And the starting week is always the lockdown period of time. So that's something very clear across the board. Looks like the US is less impacted than UK, Italy, or even Spain or France. For Spain and France, basically they share the same pattern than Italy. But it's hard to give a big picture here because, as you know, home improvement is such a diverse industry. There's many different categories here. So we have to take a closer look to try to understand which category are winners here and which are losers. Basically, what I can tell is that outdoor improvements are better performing. Examples like solar panels, roofing, gardening are clearly better performing. That's also due to seasonality, of course. And there are other clearly seasonality impacted categories that are doing great, like air conditioning across the board, across all states in the US and across Europe too. And then there is also, I found that very interesting, a surge in demand for at-home vacation products like pools, sauna, spas. One could argue that these categories are very seasonality impacted, but when you compare the data, from May to May last year, we see that the number of clicks are much bigger, much higher this year than a year before. So which could lead to the conclusion that people is preparing to stay their holidays at home. They want to do some home improvement to organize great holidays at home. And another downside of that analysis is that there is there are some costly and non-essential investments that are clearly postponed. An example is residential boilers. Nobody is investing in that category right now, which is perfectly understandable. So that's the type of analysis we've done for all of these 8 industries. It would be too long to share each analysis with you guys today. So I decided to come with that very clear recap industry insights for the remaining 7 industries. First, I'd like to comment the big picture, which is basically the shape of the curve in terms of click stream. There are different shapes for the curves. One could be the L curve, which is basically a horrible curve, and we have a few examples here. It's when you see the click volume going down and staying down for quite a while. So we see that trend for B2B, energy, insurance, and personal finance. B2B, there are though a few winners like commercial lending, teleconference systems like Zoom, where right now we're using Zoom, so that's another great examples. And losers categories like POS, which means point of sales systems, vehicle tracking. Basically, most POS buyers are restaurants, and for obvious reasons, all restaurants are closed right now. So there is a clear dip in demand for that kind of product. And vehicle tracking, I think it's self-explanatory too. Education, I find it very interesting because I thought that I thought I would find no dip in traffic in clickstream for online education. And actually, we see a clear V curve. I don't know if you can actually see this on my graph on the right. I know it's very small, but there is a clear V curve for online education and a clear rebound starting a few weeks ago, especially here in the US, starting, I think, 5 weeks ago, with a high demand for certificates and online programs. And you know, losers on campus. I thought that on campus was going to be badly hit by the pandemic, and it looks like they're back on track. Of course, there's some seasonality here. Every student needs to enroll for next fall season, and we're almost on track when compared to last year. So it is good news for EDU brands. Energy, we see another L curve here. Some winners like solar panels due to seasonality too, and losers like oil and gas providers. Telecom, actually telecom is another great example. They have an A curve, meaning that they've seen a spike in demand after the start of the lockdown period of time. And for another obvious reason, people wanted to have maybe a better access to internet because they had to stay at home, and looks like things are slowly getting back to normal for that industry. Insurance, it's another L curve. Health insurance, Medicare is booming, especially here in the US. Things are a bit different in Europe, and travel insurance is trending awful for another subset of obvious reasons. And I'm going to finish with this slide with the last two industries. Personal finance, L curve. Credit and loans are basically on hold during the lockdown period. And medical care, like hearing aids, slowly trending better, V curve. Other examples like laser eye surgery are clearly down and doesn't look like it is rebounding yet. So again, sorry for being so quick on that explanation. I know you guys are probably working in one specific industry, and because they're all kind of different and they all share different patterns, I had to go through that big picture slide. So what about landing page conversion rate? What happens here? I used the Neil Paddle data here. Neil Paddle is a successful entrepreneur based in London. And as you can see here, most of the industries see a decline in conversion rates. Some are doing better, like food, healthcare, media, and pharma. Others are doing, let's say, okay, like education, software, technology. And others are clearly taking a big hit, like construction, home improvement, travel, also transportation, and advertising too. So this is another across the board data. It's hard to do more on that front because there is no clear insights coming from Facebook, Outbrain, Taboola, or Google or Bing regarding the conversion rates. I'm going to get back to conversion rate when sharing some of the duty data that I put together for you today. Last part, the sales data. How can you get back on track? So sales data is very industry and more importantly category specific, and it's also very correlated to the brand pricing, positioning in the market, the sales funnel a brand is using. So it's very hard to draw general conclusions out of a few examples. So I decided to share with you today two great tips that we've been successfully trying with our clients here in the US. One is dynamic geo-targeting. So basically here you see on the left a map of the COVID-19 situation in the US. You see that all the different states have not been impacted the same way due to many different factors. New York has been really heavily hit by the COVID-19 crisis because it's such a crowded place. Other places were doing better, and it leads us to the question: how could we adjust our geo-targeting to make sure we can target the best performing users when it comes to online paid marketing. And on the right chart, you see an example of a geolocation that we used for a subset of clients on one category. It's the walking tubs category, targeting elderly people. So people who basically don't want to have workers at home to do their bathroom remodel and walking tub installation. So that was quite a hard one. And here is basically the results we've seen across the board for our clients on that category. So how can you read these two charts? We're not sharing data that is our client data. So we're just using week 11, which is the week before the lockdown started in the US, as a reference, as a base 100%. And then we're monitoring how each metrics is evolving compared to that specific week. So there is also two lines, which is the error margin, plus 15%, minus 15%, depending on the data we have, the data sample we are playing with, which basically gives you an example of what's happening there. So on the walking tubs category, which is part of the home improvement industry, we first seeing a decaying trend for the contact rate, which is basically the ability for the sales team to reach out to the consumer. A slow decaying trend. Then hard to analyze, a few erratic data points, hard to understand what happened there. Probably these two spots here were heavily impacted by the first tested we round out on the adjustment, based on geo-targeting, trying to adjust to the COVID-19 spread in the US and the lockdown orders in the US. And then once we could, successfully monitor this and make that thing fly, we could get back to normal. And actually we could secure a better performing contact rate across the board on average for our clients. About 110% when compared to 100%. So that's 10% better than previously, which is amazing when you look at the type of product we're trying to sell here. Another key metrics we wanted to analyze is the appointment rate, which is basically the SQL rate, the sales qualified lead. These guys, they consider an appointment a real business opportunity. We've seen first a rush to buy before lockdown, a spike in appointment rate for week 13, and then a 3 weeks wait and see period of time, slowly trending better. And now we're back to normal. And again, we are better performing here, which is really good. The team did a great job here. So that was one example, how to leverage and how to adjust the geo-targeting, basically to try to show the ads to users that are less impacted by the COVID-19, to try to secure a higher contact rate and a higher appointment rate. Another example is how you can revamp your marketing and sales process. And I'm going to switch to another home improvement industry, the home security category, and sharing with you two examples from two great players here, ADT and Vivint. As you can see here, they've changed a lot of things on their landing pages, adding some messages like sharing with the users that they are implementing extra measures regarding COVID-19 with FAQs online. And I have a quote here. Basically, Vivint having its team sharing, having gloves, eyeglasses, sanitizers, and willing to clean all areas of the home after the installation. Also setting up pre-visit phone calls, which was a great improvement when looking at the sales funnel. These guys, they also played with the credit scoring. They removed the A/B test, the removing of the activation fee, trying to see if that could have an impact on the conversion rate on the landing page, but also later on with the sales funnel. So what happens here? At first, we see pretty much a consistent trend. And then starting week 14, things started to be very erratic. And for the past few weeks, we see that it's harder to find high intent prospect, high intent SQLs, meaning appointments again for these guys than before. And we are below the margin, the error margin band here. So that's why we think people are maybe trying to save some money here or trying to make the best decision before buying a product. Uh, the good thing is that working on the sales process, these companies were able to get back to normal when it comes to the sales rate out of the SQL. So once a lead is an appointment, an appointment set, then they are again back into the error margin band. So we can consider that things are almost back to normal. And then there is a very odd point for last week, week 19, with a much better sales rate out of the SQL rate. And it's too early to tell, but maybe we will be starting to see buyers to come back to buy these kinds of products. Okay, I want to save some extra time for Q&A. So I want to wrap up that presentation with what is our COVID-19 checklist for you guys. So what should you be doing now? What to do now? First, as I said, you need to know your KPIs. You need to make sure you monitor the whole funnel for your internal marketing effort, but also when partnering with external lead vendors. That's very important. Two, I think it's a good moment to test new channels and new lead vendors. As I said, there is more traffic in the ad display networks, in social networks, news sites. So I think it's a good moment to try and test campaigns there. We did successfully for our clients over the past 2 months, and that went out well. And also try new lead vendors. Maybe the time to rethink your affiliate marketing strategy and try to start new campaigns with extra lead vendors. Then, of course, keep challenging your marketing team, your internal marketing team, but also your agency if you're working with an agency, taking care of your budget to see what they are doing actually with the pandemic, what ideas they have, how they can A/B test stuff to improve the end of the funnel sales rates. Then another very important thing for the market is that I think you should share even more data with your lead vendors because they are kind of running blind when they're sending leads to your system, and they need to understand your mid-funnel KPIs, the contact rate, the SQL rate, the gross and net sales rate, and maybe other rates that you are looking at. And to do this, you need to share what we call lead disposition report, hopefully on a daily basis per email, per using an Excel spreadsheet or an API integration. But that's very important for your lead vendors to monitor and understand what's going on and which campaigns, which landing page, which intents are better performing for you guys. Number 5, leverage COVID-specific ad and landing page copywriting. That's an obvious one, but if you haven't done that to date, I think it's never too late. 6, implement an A/B test tool for your landing pages. There are many out there on the market. A/B Testy is a great one if you don't want to use a dedicated landing page external software. But then you could move to Unbounce or other softwares like this, which will help your marketing team build a landing page without a single line of coding, and also perform the A/B test strategy. Then, and I think that has hopefully already been covered among your teams, improve your work from home capabilities. See what you can do to help your employees do a better job working from home. Trying to help them, and we've been doing a lot here internally at Doolid. We have people in 10 different countries now, so it's been hard to deal with this. But I think there's many great ideas that you could take reading articles online to improve this. 7, skip as many in-house, in-store mandatory sales funnel stages as you can. That's very important. If I get back to the home security example, these guys had previous to the COVID-19 situation, they had two in-house steps, two visits, one a pre-screening visit, and then the in-house installation. They're now doing a video conference. They're using apps to do the first visit, so that you just keep one visit at home, which is better for the consumer and also for your team. Learn from your customers. I think it's a great time to keep discussing with your customers, request feedback, maybe run NPS scoring. So NPS means Net Promoter Scores, to try to understand what they think and how they face that pandemic, and what innovation they would like you to create among your company. And last but not least, I think we should all be prepared for a possible fall second wave of COVID-19. I don't want to be the bad guy sharing the bad news here, but that's possible. And when we look at what happens in China, it is possible, it is probable. So we need to be prepared for that. And I think the only way to do that probably is to innovate. So keep talking to your sales team, to your customers, to your marketing teams, and try to find out ways to innovate. And I think we have an extra 7 minutes left. So if you have any questions, any comments, please use the Q&A button on the Zoom dashboard to do so, or shoot me an email, author@doodle.com, and I will answering all the questions later.
Great. Arthur, we do have a couple questions for you in the chat box there. I can go ahead and read them off to you and see if we can get some of these answered. I think you actually answered this one. KPIs have shifted. They've gone down, up during the pandemic. You answered that. But more specifically, with more people online, have you guys seen early intent indicators be artificially sort of inflated due to simply just more people online and impressions?
Yeah. So again, it's very hard to answer this with one sentence, because it depends on the country you're looking at, maybe the states you are targeting users, the channel also. Social networks is very different from search today, and the industry and the category. So I cannot answer. I don't have a simple answer to that question, but I could share a few examples. For instance, the surge in demand just before some states ordered the lockdown period, in the example that I already shared for the walking tab, was a clear sign that people were willing to buy fast before they couldn't move. They had to stay at home. So maybe when the lockdown period is gonna come to an end, we're gonna see people willing to spend their money very fast to buy products or services that they could not buy before, maybe in the home improvement industry, but maybe in insurance also. So we'll see this. I think something we should definitely look at is the time spent on your landing page versus the conversion rate, because what we've seen is an increase in the time spent on the landing page, even if the conversion rate is lower now, because people is carefully reading all the piece of marketing materials you put there, because they really want to understand what's going on and if they want or not to buy the product. That's another key indicator I didn't share before that you could be looking at.
Yeah, that's interesting. Along those same lines, I think, if I read this correctly, are you seeing specific channels be more successful than others in light of COVID? So, if, for example, is social or search channels seeing an improvement in conversion rates over the last period?
So again, very hard to answer that question. What I can say for sure is that search has been very hard for online search marketers over the past few weeks. The click stream has been divided by 2, sometimes by 3, so very low clicks to deal with. One could argue that the CPCs went down on search, and this is not true. This is not true because it's either black or white here. Either it's like the POS example I was sharing before. Like it's a market POS for a restaurant. I mean, it's a market where nobody's looking for a POS system, and so the click demand has go down drastically, and there is no more advertisers there. So of course the CPCs are very very low, but there is no click, so it doesn't help you much. But for the remaining categories, let's take starter panel for instance. Starter panel, that's a very good example. Actually, CPCs haven't gone down because business is still going on. So advertisers have no reason for decreasing their bids in the different platforms. What's true is for native ads and maybe social ads display, the inventory has grown drastically, and there is less advertisers. So that's interesting. But the problem is that the conversion rate has gone down. So you have to fix and find the right balance between lower CPCs, maybe a lower CTRs too, and a much lower conversion rate. So yeah, it's been a lot of tough weeks for marketing teams, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, two more questions. One I think is a simple one, so I'll do this one first. Can you remind us what was trending up in finance?
Sure. So finance, actually there is B2B finance, like commercial lending. We see a clear spike here because businesses are desperately trying to secure extra cash right now, on top of the PPP initiative by the government, the federal government. But then personal finance is, from what we see on the market, it's not looking good. We see an L curve, a decrease in demand and a decrease in conversion rates due to many different factors. And when the demand is here, once we can secure a lead flow of users for personal finance, we see lower credit scores and a higher rejection rate for the brands. So yeah, finance is I think finance it's going to be a very very tough industry in the upcoming months, especially when we see the credit scoring across the board falling, and the numbers for the unemployment rates getting a little better, but probably not as better as it was a few months ago.
Yeah. Okay. So we got another question, and so we've got two more. We'll try and make it quick. Are you seeing trends in other countries which could be predictors for the U.S. market?
Yeah, and actually that's why I decided to share a few examples coming from Europe, because we're a French company based in the US now, but we started the company in Paris, and we have some clients in Italy. And as you know, Italy was the first Western country really badly hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. It was really, really hard there. And we saw a very hard market across the board. So I'm looking at the Italy numbers on a weekly basis to see what's happening there. And actually, things are trending much better. They've been trending much better for the past 2 weeks now. We see campaigns resuming, clients giving us a phone call saying, hey, it's time to resume campaigns. People can go out on the street. The pandemic looks like the pandemic is under control now. So I think things are trending well here, which is a very positive signal when you try to guess what's going to happen here in the US.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's very positive. Okay, last question. It's regarding your slide where you showed the different affected areas and how you guys optimized. The question is, what changes did you make? Maybe you can talk about this generally. What changes did you make when looking at highly affected areas versus less affected areas? Did you move budget? Did you change content? What was sort of the changes that you made based on that slide?
Everything. We decreased bids. We paused campaigns. We excluded some areas. We do zip code targeting. We excluded some states. We changed the ads, putting, if you are based in Boston, then this is for you. Because as you know, some users, they browse online with an ad blocker, so you don't really know where they are. So it's hard to deal with these guys. So putting a clear ad copy writing helps you not get these clicks. But yeah, we've pretty much been doing all we could.
Yeah, I imagine so. Well, I imagine also this will probably be one of the most popular rewatched sessions of the week because you had so much data that you
Hope
provided, and it
so.
was really, really awesome. So, thank you for sharing all that information, putting it together, and presenting it here at Lead Generation Week. And certainly, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, you had your information, Arthur at dolead.com, and then
Exactly.
get a hold of you that way. Is there any final words before we sign off?
Good luck to everybody.
All right. Thank you very much, Arthur.